Jesse, do you want to do the intros?
This is my beautiful mug. That's Jordan.
What's up, John? How you doing?
I'm sorry. Hey, how you doing?
Hang on. He's getting a head rub.
And most of you wearing black. I think you're planning to kidnap somebody or...
One day I wore white.
Exactly. Is that a doobie, John?
I'm sorry?
Is it a doobie?
No, this is a cigarette.
Okay. Good.
It's either a doobie.
It's a big cigarette.
The standards in cigarette manufacturing have gone way downhill. So,
Right. Someone just handed me a cigarette.
I see. Same problem everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
It's falling apart. Manufacturing all over the world is turning to shit. That's what I've been complaining about.
Hey, Thear, how you doing?
Hello. How's it going?
Welcome.
Hey, how are you doing?
We're just smoking some cigarettes with John.
See another guy wearing black. You guys are going to kidnap somebody right after this. I know you. And you probably implicate me in some way because I was just on the podcast.
Do we look
right?
like
I
kidnappers?
know what you guys are up to.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us, you two. John, it's a real pleasure to finally meet you. I'd hoped to meet you on the Coinsbank cruise back in, I think it was July. I gave a silent clap to one of the best "I'm sorry I couldn't make it" speeches I've ever heard in my life, which involved your boat being on fire, the US government hunting you down on a number of fronts. John McAfee, welcome. Thear from Masari, welcome. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, people out there, if you're just joining in, we've been here for a while talking about everything from smoking dope to kidnapping to, how we're going to structure this thing after we go live. So I'm happy to be here.
On that note, John, I was at a party last night. It was a friend's birthday. She was turning 25 and about 100 people there. I assumed everybody would know who you are. And obviously I spent the evening sort of asking people, what would you ask John McAfee? And I've got some great questions, but the key takeaway for me was people in their 20s didn't actually know who John McAfee is. Then I said to them, well, you antivirus software, you know McAfee antivirus, right? Nope, they didn't. That shocked me. So I think maybe we could kick this off, John, by let's go back to your 20s. And if you could tell us who John McAfee is, starting in your 20s.
I'd love to do that. Let's address one thing in your statement about people not knowing who I am. Most of the world does not know who I am. That does not concern me. What concerns me is who knows who I am. I mean, I'm only interested in talking to technologists, whether it be in security, and the blockchain, whatever new technology there is, which I find interesting, fascinating, or powerful. The blockchain is all three, by the way. These are the people that I want listening to me. And here's why. The world has changed in a massive paradigm shift over the past few years. And we are no longer in, people, the age of capitalism in the standard sense of that word, where industry produces goods and goods become capital of the economy. What we're producing now is something totally different, and it's called information. And it's been discovered and proven that information is way more valuable than a building or an automobile or a pickup truck. This is the new capital. And who creates this capital? We do, people, the technologists. You, me, programmers, developers, architects, designers, even marketing people. Yes, we do. We need to take upon our shoulders an obligation to the rest of the world, the people who do build the cars and the factories, not to be co-opted by the government, by existing top-down industry, by any centralized authority. We owe it to the rest of the people to take the responsibility onto our own shoulders. We are the wizards, do you understand, of legend, where those few who had the magic wand who could do miracles, break into government programs that no one else can do. We are the new wizards. And if we, which should be the wisest and most capable, cannot see that we are in a dangerous situation, where governments and financial institutions and regulatory bodies are trying to stop the blockchain and cryptocurrency from being used by the people for the people. They don't want to stop it for governments creating crypto, because we're going to have the crypto dollar in 2 years. I promise you, you don't have to use it. Civil disobedience, people. Some of you may smoke weed. It's illegal in some of your states, and yet you do it. Civil disobedience. We must all, in technology, be civilly disobedient and do what we know is right for this country and this world. And I'm sorry that I did not answer your question directly. Do you have another question?
For me, I admire what you're doing in the crypto space. I've been waiting for the cavalry to arrive. There's very few people that are really sort of trumpeting this space for the type of issues you've just spoken about there. But I want us to understand who John McAfee is, going right back to your 20s. So when I was talking to these kids last night that had no concept of, they didn't even, when I said antivirus software on your computer, they were like, what the fuck is that? So who were you in your 20s? Let's begin there.
In my 20s, we didn't have computers, remember, nor smartphones, nor anything electronic that was either amusing or interesting. That didn't happen till I was in my 30s. And I was just a normal kid. Most of my life was spent in Salem, Virginia, in the heart of the Shenandoah Valley, the most beautiful part of America, in my mind. The house being on the edge of a large wood, going miles in all directions. And in the summertime, the neighborhood boys and myself, we would literally live in the woods. We built tree houses and forts and cabins and dams on little creeks, and we had our own world back there. And nothing like Lord of the Flies, if those of you are heading in that direction in your heads. And our parents would sometimes let us sleep out on weekends. Okay, they're home for the weekend, so if anything happens, there's someone to take us to the doctor if we fall out of a tree or what have you. And that was my first experience of freedom. Because that's what freedom is. Children cooperating as children, cooperating in the absence of authority. Now, that's what external freedom is. Internal freedom is simply being able to be yourself, no matter what your circumstances are, even inside a jail cell. Those two freedoms together is the Garden of Eden.
That's a wonderful picture you've painted there. So what was the family like? I mean, your parents, tell us a little bit about them.
Well, I had a typical family for the 1950s. I got whipped at least once a week by my father, as did every child everywhere in America, and usually once a month by somebody at school. Then my mother was very loving. My father was an alcoholic and abusive. Didn't much matter. I'd learned pretty early on to just stay out of the fucking house and things were okay. I went to a college in fact, Salem, Virginia, a college named Roanoke College, got a bachelor's degree in mathematics. I went to Northeast Louisiana State University in Louisiana, working on a master's in mathematics. I was on a graduate teaching assistantship where I taught undergraduates mathematics. And there was this girl sitting in the front row in my class. Her name was Frances. And keep in mind, this is back in now 1968. Okay. Oh, fuck me. I started having an affair, and school found out and fired me and dropped my scholarship and booted me out. I later married that woman, unfortunately enough, and then went back to Virginia, went to Virginia Polytechnic Institute in Blacksburg, Virginia, continuing my higher math education. But by then I was learning math from reading the fucking textbooks. Why sit down and let somebody regurgitate? Well, you just read the night before and understand completely. And he added nothing to it. And I just dropped out. I dropped out in the summer of 1969, took a job with General Electric as a programming trainee, where they taught us assembly level programming for their process automation computers, the very first process automation computers. And this is only 3 years after IBM had come out with a general purpose computer. So I'm right on the front line now of information technology, starting with assembly language, having to program computers by flipping switches on the front panel for every individual computer instruction. Because when you get a higher level language like C++ or God knows what's even beyond that, it all boils down eventually to assembly language, which is converted into machine code. Every line of machine code is a single instruction. I go, compare A to B. If a greater branch to whatever.
John, what were the people like around that time, right at the beginning of the digital age? What sort of people were you coming across then?
Well, I mean, all the women wore glasses, all the men were geeks. None of them had boyfriends or girlfriends. These were the eggheads of the world. Okay.
Were they sort of libertarian in their outlook? Was there, I've been in tech for years. Yes, we know the geek element, but
See, it's hard to explain the differences between an environment when you're on the edge of the most monstrous of waves on a surfboard. You've never surfed before, but this will be the ride of the century. And the people with you are on theirs, and we're all trying to go in some direction. We're not even sure where we're going. I mean, this science of computer science. Think about it. The dawn of the computer age, the invention of a general purpose computer.
Yeah.
3 years after its invention, I was working with General Electric on the most technologically advanced process fucking automation. I automated the Australia Iron and Steel Mills rolling mill in Port Kembla, New South Wales, as my first project. We were God's people. Do you understand? We could not dip so low down in insignificance to worry about things like politics. Who's the president?
Yeah.
Is there a war somewhere? Fuck no, people. We were on a motorcycle.
This is what, early 60s you're talking here? What?
No, late 60s.
Late 60s.
1968. When I say general purpose, I mean general purpose computer available outside of military and government control. Okay. IBM created that. The 360 it was called. So what were the people like? I told you, we did not give a flying fuck about anything except technology. Nothing. Well, food and sex. But where we slept, we didn't give a flying fuck. What was happening? No. Getting sex, getting food, we'll sleep in the office floor. It was like magic times. It was like we were the Avengers, literally, because we saw the power that rested in this stuff. Okay. And it was, we wished for things like somebody fantasized a keyboard actually attached to a computer. That did not occur for another 25 fucking years, by the way.
Yeah.
No keyboards, no monitors. Everything was flipping switches until IBM invented punch cards, which you could write your program on, feed the cards into the computer. So
when did the issue of privacy, security, when did that sort of start forming in your mind?
That was my second job. So I went from GE. So, okay, I'm going to be honest with you here. I've never been exactly, when dealing with corporations, a model player. So I realized after just 5 months with General Electric that I had learned more than almost anybody, because I chose the things I wanted to fucking learn. And so I dummied up a resume, giving me 2 extra years at General Electric, and thinking, what are the chances they will find out? 50-50? Are they going to check? It's going to depend on my interview, and they're not going to check until after my interview. Why bother if McAfee's an asshole? We don't want him anyway. So I go, yeah, I'm going to risk this one. So dummied up an interview specifically for NASA, because NASA at that time, I mean, it was, goddamn, I was still in my early 20s, and it was my dream of space travel and so on. I wanted to work for those motherfuckers. So their Institute of Space Studies was their highest, and it's in actually Manhattan, New York, okay, on the campus of Columbia University. I mean, these are the true scientists. I wanted to hang with these people. I wanted to learn from these people. So I dumped up a resume specifically for them. They flew me to New York, had the interview, and they grilled me severely, but trust me, math has always come easy to me. Therefore, computer science is easy. I passed it fine. They didn't bother to check. I got the job, moved to New York, and worked for NASA's Institute for Space Studies.
How do you compare what you're seeing in blockchain right now to that time in the late 60s, also to the launch of McAfee security, you know, the boom in the 90s with the internet? Where does it rate for you? How good is this? What have we got?
What have we got? Oh, we've got an entirely new universe. Not just a new globe. No, universe. Where possibilities, not just of the mind, but of the body and our movement and our actions, that literally were not even dreamed of by our smartest science fiction writers, Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein. No, not even they could have envisioned what I'm living today. And I'm a science fiction nut. And I am flabbergasted at what has happened. But what I'm more flabbergasted at is how the rate of change, I'm a mathematician again, this is pure calculus, rate of change is accelerating. Okay, the rate of change, which like gravity is a constant rate of change, 9.8 meters per second squared, when the rate of change itself is changing, you get into what's called second order differential equations in calculus. And that's the fucking world we're living in, where you need to understand, I don't think I can predict 2 years from now. And I know if I can't, few can. And most of them will be wrong. But it will be flabbergasting, folks. It will be beyond belief. And this much I know, as much as governments hate it, it's out of Pandora's box, and that is the blockchain and cryptocurrencies. They're not going back in that box, people. They're here to stay, and they, especially the blockchain and its ability to create an environment in which lies and deceptions can no longer exist.
So, John, I know we're under real time pressure here, and Thear, I'd love to hand this over to him now. I'll just frame it up with one last thing before I do that. For me, a big thing that a lot of my friends are asking me, you know, I've been vitriolic about Bitcoin for 4 years now. I've been waiting for the cavalry. I want to hear from you. Is the use of blockchain going to enable people to retain their humanity, retain their privacy, or are we running a risk here of blockchain crushing that? This is the big thing for me. I need you two now to have the chat on privacy and blockchain. Where are we at? What's the future got for us?
It depends entirely on us as people. See, this is the beauty and the nightmare of our situation. We've been given a tool through the blockchain that, if we see it properly as a society and use it properly as a society, it can free us completely, financially at least, and that's the basis of all other freedoms in this universe. Free us from government control monitoring, interference, and surveillance with the use of things like privacy coins and distributed exchanges. And this is a door that's open now that we can walk through. This just requires work. You got to actually use the fucking currencies that you have, not just hang on to them and hope they appreciate in value and get back into dollars. I don't care how much you've made. Even if it's $1 million, it will not free you. Money cannot free you. Only you, by conquering your own fears, can free you. The other option is what's happening now. China creating its own blockchain, creating its own crypto. And the US will follow. So will Europe. Now, they will demand that you use that instead of what we, the people, have created. Because everything now, we created, people, without government interference and control, largely. They will make that illegal, just like they made smoking marijuana illegal. So those of you who practice civil disobedience by smoking weed in places where it's illegal, then you should have no problem using the people's currencies, even though that's illegal.
Thear, have you got one question for John before we go?
No questions, just an additional comment, which is I'm not sure if we would actually necessarily have to have an illegal crypto. Like it is speculative on that front, but we do have a lot of different nations that are legitimizing Bitcoin as a legal equivalent to a legal tender. So there will be a space that's there for available for people, and I think we need enough turmoil for your kind of the general mass to understand the difference between something like a dollar versus something like a Bitcoin. And
okay, well, okay, you're forcing me now to answer because I have to answer that. Okay, Bitcoin cannot free people. I'm sorry, Bitcoin. You said not crypto. You said Bitcoin. It's got no privacy. It's got no privacy. It doesn't have any smart contract capabilities. It's an ancient technology as far as blockchains are concerned. But crypto can, if you choose the right crypto. The reason Bitcoin can't free is because governments can track everything, for God's sake. It's open. I mean, if you send me your wallet address, I owe you some money, forever after I can look exactly what's coming in, going out, from whom to whom. Jesus, we can't live like that.
John, on this note, I got one question on this, because for me, you know, I've invested 4 years of my life in promoting Bitcoin. You know, to a certain degree, it hurts to hear you say that. Privacy and anonymity are obviously two, you know, it's a continuum. So, you know, we don't want another Robert Mugabe. We don't want another Venezuela. We want people to be accountable. And for people to be accountable, you got to fucking record that and be able to fact check. This blockchain technology will change the world. And that capacity massively. I'm fascinated by what's happening at SV, at BCH. These, you know, there's teams looking at all manner of things here.
Well, okay, let me, before you went off, listen, I'm not dissing Bitcoin. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Bitcoin, but there is nothing in Bitcoin that can free people. I'm sorry. There's not. There's not a single facility. For us to be free of government control, we must first be free of government surveillance, which means privacy. You have to have a privacy coin. We have to have all kinds of logic and contracts to ensure people aren't fucking each other all the time. Yeah. So anyway, thanks very much for having me on.
Thanks, John.
I'm going to run it. Okay.
All
Bye-bye.
right, brother. Cheers.
The comment that I was going to make is when I mentioned Bitcoin, I wasn't necessarily meaning just Bitcoin. It was really legitimizing the space itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin or Monero or something else. It's just that we are in a space where we're legitimizing these effective cryptocurrencies that are not tied to a state. There are these cross-border coins. So if we can legitimize Bitcoin, we can legitimize something else as a people. So it doesn't really matter, I think, if people are jumping ship from Bitcoin because they're not happy for whatever reason, or jumping ship from another coin I kind of would rather just sit back and let competition sort of do its thing, and there will be a coin or a set of coins that are the dominant sort of projects in the space, and those are the ones that will be like coins of the people, effectively. The concerns of privacy and having the effective freedom that McAfee was talking about, in terms of like not being surveilled, because that is information itself. There will be projects in that space, so I don't see any problems.
We're pretty new to the whole privacy coin space, so we asked the guys to send us some of their promo material to check out.
What is Masari? Masari is a new cryptocurrency based on the Kryptonite protocol. This makes it private and free from prying eyes. Masari is fast because we believe privacy shouldn't slow you down. Masari is driven by a dedicated community of developers and enthusiasts. Masari is simple, Masari is secure. This gives Masari a real-world use case as a secure and private digital currency. Future advancements like block tree scaling. Masari aims at achieving a high transaction per second rate. Masari is simple, Masari is secure. Join the revolution at getmasari.org.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about Masari, exactly what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, so it's a scale-oriented project. In terms of what we've had on our roadmap is protocol-level on-chain advancements. So instead of off-chain approaches, can we have on-chain solutions that have scalability built in? So that's kind of been the mindset of the project. And in terms of the use case availability of it, that there would be this tokenization capability where you can, with no smart contracts, just create a token that you can sort of include in whatever project you want to use, whether it's a actual contract or you want to use a token for a game or whatever it is. That you'd have this system that allows you to create these tokens and do with it as you wish. And Masari would be the unit within the network that you would pay with to create and transact with these tokens.
Are you guys well funded? I mean, how many people are working on it? I mean, how are you funding yourselves, and what do you need? Who do you need to hear from?
Funding is very ad hoc. There's not really much funding, so the only real amount of funding that happened was late last year, where there was a exchange that happened with somebody in the community that allowed me to quit my job at the time and work for a few months on Masari. And that's kind of it. In terms of the project itself, there's not much money there. It's like the market cap right now is maybe like 500,000 or something like that. In terms of the dev fund, we don't have. It's not a very funded project.
What sort of people do you think would fund this? I mean, how are you?
I haven't looked too much into this yet, but there was I think it was like an anonymous group fund of some sort on trying to fund kind of projects in this space. I haven't looked too deeply into it yet, but I'm just kind of looking at it because I don't really know the ramifications of getting privately funded from an entity that you don't know about. What are the legal implications of that, if any? I think even putting that on aside, that there would be potential funding approaches where even within a nation, you can try and find some sort of programs that are trying to kind of influence local technology sort of startups. So in Canada, there's a set of criteria, but given a set of criteria, you can sort of have a certain amount of money that you can get paid. It depends on how the project is, but basically it's sort of that they would be canceling out your tax burdens from having funded something. So it's kind of it depends on the nation, but there are programs that try and help this, but it's little to no funding. If somebody's looking for a viable private sort of privacy-centered and scale-oriented Ethereum.
Right.
Okay, without the smart contracts. So like, I want this token platform to be able to transact things with. I think that's a very compelling project.
So yeah, dude, let's wrap it up. I'm tired.
What time is it over there?
What is it? Like midnight. All right, brother. We'll be in touch tomorrow.
Sure. It's been a pleasure.
Nice one.
All right. Take care.
Catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to the guys at Masari for arranging this. We really enjoyed it. It's great to learn more about what's happening in the privacy space, and be sure to check them out. The links are below.